Hey, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Almost.
Oh, yeah, this much.
And
We're
my Amish sister Melody, over where's she at? Over
actually
there.
from Skinwalker Ranch. This is my hat I got for Christmas. And we just had a weird evening. So um, I'm
We we
thinking,
we already recorded the first 10 minutes of the show. Then Melody got a text from somebody saying that something had happened on the show, and I said, "Well,
we
Melody,
weren't
how's that
awake.
possible? We're not live."
Exactly. It's like in the evening, it's not Sunday morning. And we finally figured it out. But I had a friend, my friend Lisa Smith, messaged me her a thing of pentatonics playing, and instead of hitting dismiss, I hit enter, which opens the phone line, and we had
So she can
audience.
hear us talking. So we had a one-person audience for the recording.
And
So
she
it
messaged
was
me saying we had done something. I won't talk about what it was. And we're going,
uh,
how does she know that? And then we figured out she was on the phone. Anyway,
so it's a good thing we didn't say anything bad about her.
yeah,
Well,
there.
we
No, of
wouldn't have anyway. First of
course,
all, I have no idea who she is.
yeah.
So
She's
it's Melody's friend.
an old friend. So,
But
and
anyway,
this
we're
is
gonna do one of our We See Dead People segments that we do from time to time. All the shows do a end of the year people that died show. Well, there were so many good actors, and there were a lot of lesser known actors. But if we pulled up the picture and neither one of us knew who the person was, we figured the chances are you probably wouldn't know who they were either. That doesn't mean they were wonderful actors. They just did not get the credit they deserved in their lifetime.
exactly.
And hopefully they will be discovered down the road somewhere and become big stars from heaven. So
And there'll
we're
be
not we're not saying there was anything wrong with any of the people that we are not mentioning.
no, not at all. It's just it's either that or it's I'm too stupid to know who they were. So that's a big probability. Okay,
Well,
let's commit.
let's start let's start this from square one.
Yes.
Uh, Walter Cunningham. He
Yes.
was 90 years old. He was a NASA astronaut, and he was on Apollo 7. And he was one of the astronauts that was a staunch believer in UFOs.
Well, he'd seen
You could,
them.
yes, and you can get on YouTube and find a number of videos. Now, in later life, he kind of recanted some of that, but I kind of wonder when somebody says something and they recant it if they aren't being pressured to recant
They are
things.
being pressured to recant.
Well, that's what happened to Carl Sagan.
Yep.
He was literally threatened, had his family threatened to get him to keep his mouth shut about what he really thought of UFOs.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson has been threatened, and he has uh, an eye for the ladies, as they say, and most of them being in a position to cause him trouble. So, anybody who went to their university, if you do a little searching, and to be honest with you, I've forgotten what it was, but they all Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson, even Mr. Nye, the science guy, all of them came from the same place, and they've all been pushed along in the right direction. It's for them.
That's
Anyway,
like calling that's like calling the kid that scoops ice cream at the thrifty counter an expert on ice cream production.
yes, yeah. Bill Nye the Science Guy had the same level of education that my brother Mark does. And you don't
Yes.
see Mark going out talking about uh, complex.
Climate change.
Yes.
Yes. I
So,
know nothing about climate change.
and
I
neither does
mean,
Bill.
climate is supposed to change. If
Well,
it didn't change, it wouldn't be climate.
and by God, this our show isn't about that anyway. But
But now, on to the next person here.
I
Adam Rich passed away during the early part of this year. He was an actor best known for Eight Is Enough. He was a child star. And he unfortunately died of. Fentanyl is an opiate. Am I
yes.
correct? Yes. So he was one of the many, many people who have died from opiate abuse.
Fentanyl may as well
Abuse.
be. Fentanyl may as well be. Well, it is. It's the worst drug out there right now in population in the population. But in Adam's case, he had a monster whose name I won't even mention because he was a pedophile, and he also worked as a publicity agent for children, for child actors. He unfortunately represented a number of actors on Eight Is Enough, and not all of them, not even really more than a couple of people knew what was going on. So we can't blame the lion's share of the actors on the show, but that was a serious issue with that particular program. Anyway, as
Uh,
mentioned before, just do a little bit of search on YouTube for Corey Feldman's videos he's made, and there are a number of them. And
okay, on to the next one on our list.
yes,
Melinda Dillon. Now, she doesn't have a name that just brings her picture to mind, but she was very well known. She was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. She played the mother of the little boy that the aliens kept trying to kidnap, and who met up with Richard Dreyfuss when they were out trying to get up to the top of Devil's Tower and meet the aliens. She was also in Absence of Malice, which I have to admit to not ever having seen. And she was in A Christmas Story, which I'm sure everybody remembers her. She's the one that broke the lamp. and, and she did a number of other films playing a similar role, the put upon mother in the film.
I think it says fragile, honey.
Fragile. It's from Italy. It's fragile.
It's a major award. I love
Okay,
that
now
movie before anybody else did. So
that was a good film.
yes.
It was as I was. Well, you didn't hear this, so I never said this before, but I watched 3 different films at Christmas every year. I watch a Charlie Brown Christmas. I watch the How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but I watch the cartoon with Boris Karloff.
Not the Jim
That's
Carrey. piece of.
Not the Jim Carrey pitiful rendition of the story, or that other. The CGI one was at least a little better, but I often wonder why they didn't do it in CGI and then borrow the audio from the cartoon. I think that would have been better. Although it was the cartoon was only 21 minutes long without
Yeah.
commercials. So, you couldn't really do too awful much with that, but it was awfully good. The next one is not in the entertainment industry, but was an American war hero. And he was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. He was an officer and a pilot. He was 98 years old when he passed, and his name was Harold Brown. And thank you, Mr. Brown, for your services. There are a lot of bombers that made it to where they had to go and made it home again because of you. Thank you.
Right.
Next on the list, Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of Elvis Presley.
That we know of.
Well, as active as he was, it's entirely possible there are more out there. But anyway, I forget what she passed away, some type of cancer, as I recall.
No. It's the same thing that her father died of. It was a cholesterol-related malady that went after her heart. And I wish I could think of it. And, doing this at night is very good for bandwidth, very bad for my brain. But they both died of heart-related
she died. She died. So
she'd also had some kind of a weight loss surgery also, and that puts a strain on your heart if it's weak. So.
And on January 17th, we lost Gina Lollobrigida, and she was an extremely attractive woman and an Italian superstar actress.
Very.
From what I've heard, a very nice lady. And the very next day, we lost David Crosby from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And that was real sorry to see him go.
Well, he was also the well-known father of many entertainment figures, female figures, obviously, children. He had lent his essence to Melissa Etheridge and her partner, and
no. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. He donated sperm.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was trying to be,
because I was going to say Melissa Etheridge. She wasn't going to sleep with David Crosby.
No.
Okay.
No. Her partner. Well, no. Let's face it. But he was extremely intelligent, and he had good essential health, except for some of the substances he took in.
And he died, so he couldn't have been. Of course, I think he was in his 80s. They didn't list his age.
He was over 80, so.
Yeah, they didn't list his age. Now that we lost someone who I'm not real familiar with, but Melanie is, and that's Lance Kerwin.
Yeah. And
Could
yet
you go
another child actor who had
he was in James at 15. I assume he played James?
Yes.
Okay, and he was in Salem's Lot.
He played the young man who is beset by the vampires. And he was similar things. A lot of these children who are attacked by these monsters, and they're very real monsters. We're not talking about the vampires, but they often don't demonstrate any real psychological wounds till they get older, and a lot
Oh,
of
so we're saying that he was beset by some of the same issues that Adam Rich
yes,
was.
yeah,
Uh,
almost all
that's
of them.
sad. There's so many of them.
It is. If you look at these people, Dana Plato. If you look at these people,
Oh yeah, she
that's
just
what
had a
happened.
terrible time of it. I
Exactly.
mean, I've seen Pamela Vernon discuss this, and she said that her mother was with her at every shoot. That there was never a moment when her mother was not there. So
Exactly.
and Pamela Vernon said she was never bothered.
And there are
And
some sets where it's just a confluence of actors and people in the business that protect children. And uh, to give one person his due, he certainly had his own problems, but Michael Landon would he picked up a shovel once and ran a drug I guess he was selling drugs off of the set to protect the kids who were on the set. And he did that regularly. And he would not let anybody who was trying to get near a child get near them. And he could be a
I
really
have heard stories about Keanu Reeves of similar
oh
things
yeah, absolutely.
that he has interjected himself into a number of situations that he felt uncomfortable for what was going on.
There was a video that was once on YouTube that was Keanu. You couldn't tell it was Keanu until he moved into the shot. He put his arm between this person and this person and said, "This is going to stop right now." And then he turns and he says, "Call the police." And he stopped what was going on. And it clearly was something that disturbed him badly. And it involved the police. So it's going to tell you something.
Well, that's
Keanu's
good.
one of the good guys.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Yes.
And this was somebody who was very famous in the 80s. She was, well known. That's Cindy Williams.
Yes. Yeah.
And Cindy Williams was, of course, in Laverne and Shirley. And let's see, she played Shirley, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Laverne
Penny
was
Marshall.
Penny
Penny.
Marshall, yeah.
Yeah. It's
And she was
funny.
also in American Graffiti.
Yes.
And I also heard that she was one of the ones who tested for Princess Leia.
Yeah. A lot of people did. Yes. She
There were
tested
a
Leia.
lot of actresses that wanted to be Princess Leia.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of very well-known actresses that wanted to be Princess Leia.
Yep.
But
Cindy died young, just like Penny did. So.
well, 75. It's
Still,
older than me. So.
it's well, yes, that is always the thumb rule, you know.
I want everybody that dies to be at least 20 or 30 years older
At
than me.
least, yes, exactly.
When they die and they're younger than me, really, I don't like to hear that at all.
Oh no,
But
no. They clearly were, abusing themselves. You know how it is. Okay.
And someone that died younger than me is next on our list, and that's Lisa Loring.
Yeah.
And Lisa Loring was famous for playing Wednesday on the old Addams Family show. And her death brought about the fact that John Astin is the only remaining cast member alive. And I think he's 162 or
94.
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, good for him. And I mean, and he was still working until like 10 years ago or
He's
so.
still working.
I haven't seen him in anything in some time.
His son the other day mentioned that my dad just signed for something and he's 94.
Well, he was a regular on Night Court.
Yeah. Yeah.
And didn't the guy that played the judge on that, didn't he die?
Yeah. A lot of the people on that show have passed. A lot of them.
Richard Mall.
Yeah. Richard Mall. Trying to think the name of the female bailiff on there.
Oh, the black lady?
Yeah. No, I believe she's still alive. But everybody else, except
John
for
Larroquette. John Larroquette's still alive.
John Larroquette is still alive, doing well, and but Marky Post is gone, and Harry.
Harry's the one that played the judge.
Yeah.
Harry. Yeah.
Can't think of his last name. Isn't that awful? Let me rectify that.
Harry. And he did a lot of Disney stuff, a lot of Disney documentaries.
Yeah. Well, he was a voice actor to a certain extent.
See, if we were live, we'd have several people tell us the answer to this.
I know. Harry Anderson.
Telling us how stupid what? Huh?
Harry Anderson.
Harry Anderson.
Yeah, he played Harry Stone. I always get his name mixed up with his character name. But yeah, he died, and of course the page goes away.
And I believe John Astin played his dad on the show, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he was 68, 69.
Wow, that's too young. Old. That's way too damn young, because I'm 68.
Yeah. Well,
way too damn young.
Unfortunately, most people these days live to be 80. So he also was on Dave's World, which was a series I just really enjoyed, and which you cannot find anywhere now. But anyway, now we know his name.
Okay, so we are on to Burt Bacharach.
Yes.
A very famous Hall of Fame composer. He wrote the Pink Panther. That
and I believe he was involved in the writing of the theme song to E.T.
Yeah, he did a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I mean he was back when we were kids, he was a major star. Things was like they are now.
He was the John Williams of his era.
He was indeed.
Yes, if there was a big movie being made, he was involved in it.
Yep.
All right, now we have another one of the Tuskegee Airmen, and that is Oscar Lawton Wilkerson. He was 96 years old and another American hero. He was a pilot during World War II and protected the bombers going to and coming back. And if you want to hear some stories, read up on the Tuskegee Airmen, because there's a lot of those bomber crews that owe their lives to the skill of the Tuskegee Airmen.
That's right.
Yep. a beautiful woman and a good actress who she was in an Elvis film. She was in Girls, Girls, Girls. She was in The Nutty Professor, The Poseidon Adventure, and I think she did some other
Oh, yeah,
Disney films.
yeah.
It seems like she was in That Darn Cat, but I'm not positive.
No.
But that was Stella Stevens.
Yep.
She was 84 years old, and we lost her February the 17th of
Yeah.
this year. It
And
isn't New Year yet, so it's still this year.
yeah. And
February the 19th, we lost Richard Belzer.
one of my favorites.
And he was in Homicide, Life on the Street. He was in Law and Order SVU. He was in The Flash. And Melody is more familiar with the comedy end of his career.
Well, he also played. He played John Munch on more TV shows than any other actor has ever played a single character. He was also on the X-Files as John Munch. He in a particularly funny episode, and he also appeared as Munch on a couple of other series that I can't remember right now. But he also was very funny. He was a conspiracy theorist. He wrote a couple of books, one of which was called Another Lone Nut. This was in reference to the fact he had had testicular cancer when he was in his 20s. And
That's bad stuff, too.
yeah, but he
I
recovered
mean, that's unusual. Him and Lance Armstrong,
yep.
because it's very common to find out you have that and be dead within 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's some bad stuff.
But he made it all the way to 70, what was he, 77, 78? Still too young.
Belzer's 78.
Yeah. And still too young, but
Anything short of 180 years old is too
he's
young.
too young, yes. But he was
Let's face it.
he was a good actor. He was a better writer and just a wonderful, nice man.
Next, dying on February the 22nd, was Christina Holland. She was 78. She was an actress, of course. She was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. She played, from what I understand, the love interest in that. She was in a movie called The Funky Phantom, which I have no idea what that was. I had never heard of it. And she was with one of my wife's cousins. She was in The Courtship of Eddie's Father. What was the actor's name?
Brandon Cruz.
Brandon Cruz. That was one of my late wife's cousins that was in that. So, now, just to make a mention, we were going to talk about these people, but I thought it was kind of odd. February 22nd, we lost Riku Browning, who was 93 and one of the actors in Creature from the Black Lagoon. And what was odd is within a month and a half, we lost 3 actors from Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is kind of unusual to lose that many from one movie. Of course, they were all in their 90s, so they all had pretty good lives. Okay, Melanie, I think, is more familiar with the next actor, Tom Sizemore. Now, he died real young. He was 61. He was in Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, and Heat.
Tom Sizemore was a brilliant actor. He was really, truly fine. He was hypersensitive, which is what led him to the armament of his demise. He took a lot of drugs. And one of his most well-known roles in his later years came about when he came to Dr. Drew's Celebrity Rehab and was on there for quite some time. Unfortunately, it didn't. He was clean for a while. He worked a bit, but he unfortunately didn't have the support system that others have had, and so therefore died as up from a heart attack, actually from a stroke, I believe, but it was a direct result from his years of abuse. And what a waste of a fine actor.
Next, on March the 8th, we lost another big star. I consider he had kind of fallen off the radar in the last few years, but Robert Blake,
Yes.
who had a TV series Beretta back in the 80s, 90s, I think, maybe late 80s on into the 90s. He was in a film In Cold Blood, and he was a child star
Yes.
in a very famous movie, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, and he's the one that handed the map to Humphrey Bogart.
Yep.
So, how many
Robert.
people can say? How many people can say they had a part with Humphrey Bogart?
Exactly. He also, as everybody knows, had a bit of legal problems in his later years. That
Yes.
he, in my,
Basically, he was accused of murdering somebody.
however, he was exonerated of it,
Right.
and the um, the person. No, I'm not gonna say that. The the incident was fraught with a lot of misinformation and things that were related to the press that weren't really true. There was another suspect who had a history of having committed a similar crime. And a lot of people think that that person's family um, caused.
Let, let's just say Robert was on the bad political side of the current the situation at the time he was going through this, and it put him in a bad position. But
It
as Melody said, he was exonerated.
and
So
so I don't know if it was a political situation so much as it was just the power of the people involved. But Robert was a good guy. He did a lot of good things for, especially for former child actors. He was a molested child actor. He said that often, and he called out the names of people. That's another reason why things happened to him. But he came out of it. He lived a few years afterwards. His daughter um, is was in contact with a lot of us online during that whole period, and his daughter is a grown woman now, and so Robert went on, I think, to a better place. I must say that there's a very interesting story about this. That he said people that he thought would be there for him to the end turned their backs and walked away. And people he thought, oh, in a million years, these people will be on my side. They weren't. But people like Stephen Cannell, who he didn't even think of really as a friend, he let him come to his home when he was um, paroled. Not paroled. What is the bailed. He was bailed out. And he allowed him to come into his home and live there. And
Well,
this was his son.
Cannell was the one that produced Beretta,
Yes.
wasn't he?
Yeah, but
That was his production company that produced Beretta.
But they used to lock horns all the time, and he never thought of him as a friend. But he sure turned into one. And another one is an actor who had approached him because he admired his portrayal in Cold Blood. He had studied with him while he was developing Hannibal Lecter. And I'm talking about Anthony Hopkins. And he would come to the prison where Blake was being held and would wait all day to see him because he knew he needed friends and a feeling of camaraderie and support. He waited 8 hours to see him. And what Robert Blake said, I think I'd spend 5 or 6 days talking to him. And he would never have thought of him as a friend. And people like Mort Saul, who he barely knew, came out and went in front of the press and said, this man did not do this. There were people who really went to the wall for him. And those are the people you have to look and say, would they have this kind of support? So anyway, end of stories.
Okay. Next up, somebody a lot of you, unless you're a big Disney fan, may not have heard of, is Raleigh Crump. Now, Raleigh Crump, if you've ever been to Disneyland, all the tiki gods sitting outside in the waiting area of the tiki room, those were all carved by Raleigh Crump, hand carved by Raleigh Crump. Raleigh Crump was a Disney animator. He's a Disney legend. And he was the main designer of the Haunted Mansion. So if you're a Disney fan and go to Disneyland, you've seen a lot of his work. And we lost Raleigh March the 12th.
He had reached a good age, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he was 93.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Now, he is the one, I don't know if you've ever heard this story. They were looking at the model of Disneyland. They were all looking at the castle, trying to decide how the castle should look. And there was just something wrong with it. So Raleigh picked up the center of the castle and he turned it 180 degrees and he sat it back down. And what they didn't know is that Walt Disney had walked up behind him. And Walt Disney looked at it, that's how I want it right there. So Raleigh Crump was responsible for the way the castle looked.
He saved Disneyland.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise the front of the castle would be on the back. So it was just a random thing. Okay, March 21st, we lost the New York Knickerbocker legend, Willis Reed. Willis Reed was famous for getting hurt and dragging himself out of the hospital bed and out onto the court and beating my Lakers in the championship. So he's an NBA legend. He's not a Disney legend. He's an NBA legend and was a great player. And, like I say, wasn't my favorite because he beat my team, but I have to admit he was a very good player. And we lost him March 21st at the age of 80. April the 4th, we lost a car racing legend of extreme measures. This man was the
hero.
he was the fastest man on earth for many, many years. And this is Craig Breedlove. He drove a car called the Spirit of America. Now, he is very famous for a particular incident that happened. One day he was out on the Bonneville Salt Flats, and the brakes went out, and he managed to crash the car into a snowbank around the outskirts of the Bonneville Salt Flats. And everybody come running up there and tried to, see if he was okay. And he jumps out of the car and jumps up on the roof of the car and says, "And now for my next act, I will set myself on fire." Now, his wife was the fastest woman on earth, driving the same car for a number of years. I forget her name. She passed away, I think, the same year that Craig passed away. But, and like Melody said, he was one of my heroes.
He was. I heard that story, I don't know how many times. In fact, I even repeated it as he was saying it.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to look up his wife's name just because we always know what the name of the guy, but
Well, she was famous in her own right.
Yeah.
Like I say, she was the fastest woman on earth for a long time.
Yep. Yadira Breedlove. She died April 4th at the age of 86.
In 2023?
Yep. So, as often is the case,
she died April 4th?
Mm-hmm.
So did he.
Well, there you go. I wonder
if they died in a car accident or something.
No, at home.
He was 86.
At home in Rio Vista. Let's see.
That's bizarre that they both died the same day.
Same day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that really is unusual.
Very much so. Let's see. Cause of death, Craig Breedlove. He died of cancer. And yeah, they died the same day. At least it's written down as the same day. I think they may have gotten the
dates mixed up.
Because
we'll have to look into that. That's too unusual a thing to not look into.
I know. Well, I mean, it does happen even with friends.
I mean, if they both had cancer, they might have done something to exit together, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's what happened with George Harrison. Yeah, I'm thinking that they got her. Let's see. They got her information mixed in with his. Let's see.
Well, he was the most famous of the two, the more famous of the two.
Oh, well, of course. I tell you, I will look it up and we'll let you guys know next week.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look into.
Huh?
April the 10th, we lost another of my heroes. And if you were a fan of Mad Magazine, you will be familiar with his name, and that is Al Jaffe.
Yep.
He was a wonderful cartoonist. He designed the Alfred E. Newman that they used for Mad Magazine.
Yep.
And did, 90% of the stuff in the magazine during his era there was either done or supervised by him. Let's see. April 25th, we lost Harry Belafonte.
As
Dale,
Dale. Daylight comes
you,
and we want to throw up.
I don't think that was the word.
No, I was taking a line from WKRP in which Johnny, what was his name? Johnny, whatever his name was, saying.
If you hadn't asked, I could have told you.
Yeah.
Johnny, he had a last name. It was like Freedom or Johnny Fever. Johnny Fever.
Thank you. Johnny Danger was a friend of mine's boyfriend. Johnny Fever was singing, he sort of rewrote that song in terms of the phone cops who he believed existed. Anyway, but the Harry Belafonte, according to my late grandmother-in-law, if there is such a thing, was a fine Italian singer.
Now his singing became more famous here back in the 90s with the release of Beetlejuice.
Yes, yes.
Because that song was one of the songs that they lip sync to in Beetlejuice.
Right.
And right at the end of the movie where she was floating up in the air. All right. Next. Now, I was not sure I wanted to mention this person because he really wasn't my favorite person, but that's Jerry Springer. Now, what I didn't know is the Europe's Got Talent or whatever. What is that called? The UK's Got Talent or England's Got Talent or whatever one
that. One for every country now.
Whatever that show was called, that was his brainchild, Jerry Springer's. So if he isn't famous for anything else, he's famous for that.
He invented the midget Ku Klux Klan and
the
Black Panthers. Let me say this very clearly because I was once asked about this by an Australian friend. There is no such thing beyond the brain trust of Jerry Springer. There was never any such thing as the midget Ku Klux Klan or the midget Black Panther. Okay? Well, we wouldn't use the term midget anyway, but except on Jerry Springer, who liked to cause trouble. Anyway, he was once mayor of a city too, and I can't remember which one it was.
I saw it was like Syracuse or something, and he was a mayor for a year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened there. If he took over for somebody, or if they kicked him out, or.
And I'm told he was a nice man, but you couldn't prove it by his TV show.
No. And next up, May the 1st, we lost Gordon Lightfoot. Now, to those of you young people, he was probably most famous for The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is a very good song. I liked his voice. He was a good singer. He was performing the last year he was alive. He was touring.
Yep.
I almost bought tickets to go see him. I wish I had now because we lost him. He was Canadian, by the way. He was not an American.
Well, all of us have those little things about our natures. I'm joking.
Ooh, We're gonna get
I'm
mail.
joking. No, I have so
Send the
many
mail
Canadian
to
friends.
send
I
the
have
mail to Melody
I have so many Canadian
over
friends.
there.
They know I'm joking with them. Anyway, the
If just in case you're wondering, I always have trouble pointing at Melody because Melody is really over there.
actually over there, yeah.
But when they do this, it reverses your image. It's like looking at a mirror. So I have to remember to instead point like that. Then it
Yeah.
looks like I'm pointing at her on the screen.
It's just
But
really a weird
when I
thing.
do that, I'm pointing the wrong direction to me. So anyway, uh, the next one, I wasn't familiar with this person, but Melody was. When we went over this list, Jacqueline Zeman.
Jackie Zeman was
She
on
was 70. She was on General Hospital, One Life to Live, and I guess this was a soap opera, The Bay.
yes, it was at one time. And of course there aren't any soap operas, well, not many anymore, so
I
the
thought General Hospital was still on.
probably. There are a couple. It's not like it was in the 70s. When I was in college, like everything was soap operas. They were cheap to produce, but then they created the reality show and it all went away. But yeah, Jackie Zeman was a very well respected person. She showed up, knew her lines, knew where her marks were, and got along with everyone. So therefore, she stayed around. And after Jackie, we lost
Barry
Harry.
Newman,
This was an actor.
92.
Yeah, he lived to a ripe old age. He was the star of a 70s television show called Petrocelli. He was in a lot of episodic TV back during that age, during that era. And he was on, I believe it started out as one of the uh, movie of the week uh, regular shows. Like, I may be wrong in that, but
It was not one of the, what did they call them, where they had name of the game.
yes, yeah. I was
That
thinking of,
was that was name of the game with Gene Barry.
right.
Uh, the Columbo,
Right. And
uh,
then the Dennis Weaver thing.
McLeod with Dennis Weaver,
Right.
and there was Mannix,
Ah, okay.
I
That's what.
think was one of them. And then Mannix got spun off to its own show, and Columbo got spun off to its own show, and
Right.
McLeod got spun off to its own show, and name of the game went bye-bye because Gene
Yeah.
Barry died.
Yeah.
So
But anyway, Petrocelli was actually pretty good. It was a
it
fairly
was
good
a
series.
detective show, I think,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah. And Barry Newman played Petrocelli. So he was a fairly big actor for a while there. I believe he had some various personal problems, the kind that always crop up with actors and well entertainers. And but he lived to a good old age
92.
and made had enough money to live a good lifestyle. So
That's always good.
yeah, always.
Then on May the 18th, we lost Jim Brown, the
Yep,
football player.
yep, and actor.
And yes, he was 87 years old. He was a tremendous football player.
Yeah.
And he was in the Dirty Dozen and probably more famous for Mars Attacks.
Yes, probably. And I must
And I'm
say
sure
that
the younger people will remember him for Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks, almost certainly. And he was
Uh,
not a bad actor.
May 24th, we lost George Maharis,
Yes.
who was in Route 66 and in the famous film Exodus, which is very, very good film.
He was one of the very few TV actors of that generation who made the cross into film. And he was a good actor. He also had a lot of um, good connections. So um, he was married to someone. I'm trying to remember. It was a very well known actress.
You
Um,
want to look that up? I'll go on.
yes, go right ahead.
Okay, May 24th, we lost Tina Turner. She was 83. She was an outstanding singer. She was in the Hall of Fame. I think she was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She was an 8-time Emmy winner and said one of my very favorite movie lines to what's his name that played Mad Max?
Oh,
Remind me.
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson. And Mel Gibson's laying on the ground, and she comes driving up in her dune buggy. And after they had been in a big chase and a fight, she leans down, looks at him, and says, "Ain't we a pair, Raggedy Man?" And she drives back off with her dune buggy, and that's the end of the movie. So I like that scene.
Yep.
June the 6th, we lost Pat Cooper.
He's a wonderful old comic
And
cat.
Pat Cooper was, I'm sorry?
He was a comic. He was a Catskills comic, and he,
Oh,
um,
Pat Cooper?
yeah, Pat Cooper, yeah, and
He was in a movie called Fighting Back.
yes, he did a lot of stuff. At
Did you find out
oh,
who George Maharis was married to?
he was a gay man. That's what I was remembering, and
Oh, well, then he wasn't married to any woman then.
not to a woman. No, he was with Mark Bahan was his partner. So he was a
And
very fellow.
now remember, we're going to continue on with this next Sunday. And so the last person on our list, I ran out of time pulling all these people up, was Treat Williams, who was 71. Probably had a good body because he was in hair. So, no, whether he was one of the people that was naked in hair, I don't know. And he was in Prince of the City and Everwood. Do you have any more information about Treat Williams?
Treat Williams
Is
was
that a he or a she?
he. Yeah, Treat
Okay,
Williams
because I wasn't sure. That name
was,
is kind of nondescript.
yeah, well, it was a screen name, but he was a very good actor. You'd know him in a minute if you saw him. Yes, he was in Hair. He was in one of the low dress roles, as they say. He was also in 1941 um,
With John Belushi?
with John Belushi, and his real name was Richard Williams. So um, small wonder that he went by Treat. He was also a writer. He had written novels. Um, and he was let's see, he had won a Golden Globe and Emmy nominations. He had a recurring role on White Collar and Chicago Fire and Blue Bloods. And he died in, I believe, a motorcycle accident at
which is interesting for somebody at 71 to be riding a motorcycle.
Well, these days, 71 is not that old. It, look at your,
Absolutely.
well, and, because we're both,
'Cause I'm
uh,
68. Well, she's only 64. I'm 68.
yeah. He was also an airline pilot. But not an airline.
Huh?
He was an airplane pilot.
Ah.
Can you tell it's 10 o'clock at night? Um,
11, actually.
11. Oh, it is 11. But
And we're out of time.
we are indeed. But thank you all. Have a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. I'm mainly going to
And
be asleep.
I'll tell you, watch the Fan Flak feed, because Melanie and I are discussing doing like we did I did last year. Melanie was asleep. Last year, I did a live countdown to New Year's. So I may just do it again because I don't have to go back to work until January the 8th.
There you go. And I don't have to go back to work.
And Melanie doesn't ever have to go back to work.
Well, I work for myself. Yeah, I'm a writer.
Right.
So.
But she doesn't have to go clock in anywhere and go to work.
Nope.
Melanie is an outstanding writer. You should buy her books.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't think you've ever read one, have you, Mark?
I read your short story.
Oh, okay.
The one about the lady in the taking her mom to lunch.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well,
yeah.
I am allowed.
And that was outstanding.
It won an award, so
very good. That should be produced into a film. In fact, why don't we do that?
Yeah,
you can shoot a movie. You can shoot a movie with your phone, and we had a guest on the show that knows how to do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Why don't we call up that? Why don't we call up that guy and suggest that to him?
We will do so. I must also say I have permission to do this. We also will be having a Star of Dark Shadows on as an interview very soon, and
being as there aren't too many Stars of Dark Shadows left, it ain't going to take you very long to figure out who it is.
Well, it's not David Hennessy or David Selby. It's a female actor, and her name is...
Okay, so you know who it is.
Well, I just said her name.
So it's going to be a little while because we have to maneuver it together, and we wish to promote it.
Yes. But Catherine Lee Scott's going to be with us within, I'd say, a few weeks. So.
And if you're a Star Trek fan, she was also on an episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
Do you think she will be upset if I bring up that on the interview?
Oh, heavens, no.
Okay.
Good grief, no. You can discuss anything with Catherine, really.
Well, there are a lot of people, actors, in fact, that remember one of the actors we had on the show had things that we were not to discuss, if you recall.
Yes, I recall.
Okay. So this does come up from time to time.
I've known Catherine for 30-some years, so this will be okay.
Good deal.
All right. You guys have
all right, everybody.
Evening.
Happy New Year. And dear sister, you have a Happy New Year, and I'll be in touch with you sometime before New Year's.
Sounds good. You guys have
So if you're sitting up at night and decide you want to join me on the countdown, I'll probably be here. I'll probably do it.
I'll have your brother-in-law shake me hard and go, wake up.
All righty. See you
All
then.
right. Okay. Bye bye.
And we'll see you guys next week. Ta ta.